Hello again, everybody. Cannon here again. For this lesson, we're going to do something a little bit different and sit down and talk about songwriting. Now, this is something that I get asked about a bunch, especially lately. It's something I know that a lot of people are very interested in and a lot of people struggle with. And so I just want to talk about some general ideas, approaches, how I do it myself, and just kind of try to encourage some different ways to approach it and maybe stir up some fresh ideas. I'm going to try to do this as one long take, so if there are any awkward jump cuts, pretend they're not there. So, anyway, the biggest thing with writing when I sit down to write a song is having a solid concept of not necessarily a beginning, a middle, and end, but just an overarching theme. That's how I tend to write. There's other approaches, but the main way that I tend to write is thematically. I'll have an idea in my head like, oh, I want this song to sound like a rainstorm, or oh, I want this song to sound like a boat lost at sea. Those are all, maybe not good songs, but those are all songs that I have written in the past as I've started doing different things and experimenting with different kinds of ways of writing. And that kind of segues into another point, which is just write as much as you can. It's gonna suck. A lot of it's gonna suck. I've written more than I can count that sucks. But it's part of the process, just like practicing, just like ironing out the technical things. The creative side takes practice too. I feel like there's this misconception with a lot of people that you're just kind of a good songwriter or not, and that's not necessarily true. It's something that you can build up with practice, just like any other skill. Now, thematically, talking about just practicing, as far as actual like meat and potatoes, like how do I get this kind of sound that does this or whatever, well, that is what theory is for. That's the beautiful thing about theory, is it gives you something to attach certain sounds, certain mechanisms, things that make your ear feel a certain way or make you hear a certain thing. You can attach these easy labels to them so that when you want to accomplish that in a particular song, you can go, oh, it's da-da-da, instead of searching around for an extended period of time to find what you want. So in order to be able to apply music theory when I'm writing, it's not so much about, oh, I have to follow this rule and this rule and this rule and go through this step and this step and this step. It's more about, in the past when I've said, oh, that sounds cool, or oh, that's interesting, I'll go and try to find and see if I can analyze what the underlying theory behind it is. And if I don't know what it is, I'll do as much research as it takes to find out what it is. And then once I have a concrete, oh, this is this, and that's why it sounds that way, kind of answer, then I know that I can apply that concept to my own writing in a much more diverse way than necessarily just playing the licks themselves or the riffs themselves or the chords themselves, whatever it may be. By understanding the underlying mechanism, by putting that work in, you really open yourself up to being able to utilize more than just lifting particular things. Just overarching concepts. Again, that's what was like I was talking about with themes. It's not so much about having to have this concrete, oh, my song's going to do this and this and this and this and this. That's a valid way to write too. But it's much more important for me, at least, to have a cohesive, solid thing to tie everything together with. Let's see. Beyond that, learn as many songs as you can. That's probably a really obvious thing, but learning from writers you admire and learning from maybe not even people you listen to that much, but you just enjoy one particular thing, it makes such a big difference in being able to apply it to your own music. So if you like something cool, if you think something is cool and you like it, learn it and learn the theory behind it too. You don't have to constantly think of that. You don't have to constantly utilize that, but by being able to associate that cool thing I heard that one time to a particular concept theoretically, it makes things so much easier. When I didn't really play guitar and certainly didn't play any kind of technical guitar when I first started out, I heard Yngwie Malmsteen, and it just blew my mind, and I had no idea what was going on with it. It was just the craziest thing ever. And then eventually everyone finds out that he uses diminished and harmonic minor basically 99% of the time. And you go, oh, okay, well, that makes more sense now. And instead of it just being this big wash of impossible to understand stuff, it kind of fits into a box a little bit more. That's a gross oversimplification, of course, but it's a good way to organize things. Gross oversimplifications, that is. So find the boxes you can put things in your head, in your writing toolbox. You want to be able to say, oh, okay, this is for when I'm happy, and this is for when I'm sad, and this is for when I'm pissed off, or whatever it is. And in each of those boxes, you can pull a particular example or a particular theoretical concept and say, well, this is what I'll use for this particular piece. The song I wrote most recently, the Doom-inspired instrumental thing, I knew in my head that I wanted it to be a thrashy metal piece. So I'm already thinking lots of down picking, lots of minor key focused stuff, lots of chugging, that kind of thing. And then when it came to the leads, I wanted to imply something a little bit chromatic and a little bit dark over top of that. So I shifted to a harmonic minor tonality instead of a natural minor like most of the song was. Just having those kinds of things at your, maybe not fingertips is the right word, but in your head to access, it is so useful for writing. It is so useful to be able to say, oh, I want something to be happy and bouncy. Oh, I know, I'll do some Mixolydian legato stuff. Oh, I want something to be really aggressive and dark. Oh, I'll do some alternate pick diminished stuff. And of course, this is gross oversimplification and only just the examples I can think of off the top of my head in this stream of consciousness music rant that I'm going on here. But it really, it's about building your own toolbox as a writer. Because everyone's different. Everyone's going to have different likes and dislikes. Everyone's going to have learned different things. Everyone's going to have different advantages and disadvantages starting out. And you iron out those rough edges, but still, everyone's going to always have things they're better at than others. So it's about learning what you like and learning the mechanics and the theory behind what you like. Because if you can learn that, if you can understand that, then you can apply these things that you hear that you enjoy to your own playing, to your own writing, and be original about it. Or at least do something of your own. Original is that word, and that brings up a good point. Don't beat yourself over the head trying to be unique. Don't say, oh, I absolutely, if it sounds like anything I've ever heard before, throw it away. It's not productive to write like that. If you want to, all the power to you. I've known people like that who write like that. It's kind of missing the forest for the trees. It's saying that doing something different is absolutely such a pinnacle that you throw away anything that's good but just happens to be too close to something else. And that's not really what music is about. I mean, music is about having fun. So if that means writing a silly tongue-in-cheek thrash metal song like I did recently, that's what it means. I don't get hung up on the fact that it sounds like probably a million other metal songs, because it's fun and it's something that I did, and it's still my own individual set of influences. So it's not so much about avoiding ever sounding like anything at all in each individual section. It's more about just taking your influences, taking the things that you like to write with and use, and putting them together into interesting ways. Developing your own cliches. Because there's so many artists that have like these methods of songwriting that you just latch onto immediately. You know, oh, it's this guy or this guy, and you just, it's not even that they're predictable. They have a style, and that style is an amalgamation of everything that person likes, everything that person learns, everything that person studies. So if you want to diversify your writing, diversify your listening, diversify what you're studying with theory, diversify how you play things. Take an interesting approach that I've messed around with in the past is when I am approaching things from a theoretical perspective, I'll say, oh, okay, well, I want to do something, I don't know, I want to do something aggressive and kind of off-kilter, and instead of applying it to a metal application or whatever, I might go and say, oh, well, let's see if I can try to get something country sounding out of this. Now, I'm not a country player. I'm not in any way, shape, or form. But I've heard it. Everyone's heard it. I can BS and cliche my way through some of it at least. So if I want to use it in my songwriting, it's there as an option. Again, don't judge yourself if that is what you've got on hand, like me, is cliche BS, because it can still be fun, and more importantly, it can still help you progress as a writer. Just get out there and do things silly. If all you ever do is write heavy metal songs, then write a singer-songwriter song with just cowboy chords, and if you can't sing over top it, hum it, whatever. Just put yourself in a different mindset. And then, when it comes to, say, you're writing a really heavy metal song and you say, oh, I want a nice little pretty interlude in there, you'll have that skill set to apply. It's not necessarily about being perfectly fluent in every style. There's very few people out there who are, but you can approach a whole hell of a bunch of different styles from your own unique perspective, and that's what produces some really, really cool results, what produces some really cool new things, is when people kind of bastardize concepts musically and with songwriting in general. So that's a big long ramble. I will probably have jump cutted this around, like I said, to try to condense this a little bit. So I hope that you got something useful out of that. I just tried to cover just general thoughts in songwriting, and the most important thing I can say is just write. When you get the inspiration, don't let it go for a second. If you can write it down right there or hum it, just if everyone's got a recording app on their phone these days, if you can just hum it or sing into a phone and have it, do it the second it pops into your mind. The second. Don't let it go. Too many things I've let go because I said, oh, I'll remember it in an hour. No. All my best ideas come to me in the shower typically, so it's always a rush to get out and get to the phone and record it before I forget it. So don't let those moments of inspiration go to waste. And don't be afraid of where those moments of inspiration might take you. Don't if you just start humming some really poppy, over-the-top happy melody, don't throw that out because, oh, I'm a mean metal guy. Or if you're really into poppy singer-songwriter stuff, don't throw it out if you write something really dark and mean and whatever. Let your creativity and your inspiration be what it is. Capture it each time it comes, and eventually you'll have a nice little backlog of recordings, of writings, of all sorts of stuff that you can pull from, and you might not use it all. Most of it probably won't be that good. I know, like I said, most of my stuff sucks. But by building up your own vocabulary, building up your own library, it's just widening your skill set. It's widening your experience. It's widening, well, like I just said, your vocabulary musically. And then eventually, years and years and years and years down on the road, you might have a good handle on songwriting, and you might say, oh, I've had this thing locked away for 20 years. I'll finally use it. I finally know what to do with it now. So don't give up inspiration. Don't let it go. Don't put it off. Don't be afraid of it, whatever it is, and just let yourself write. So I know this has been a very wishy-washy, feely kind of video, and not necessarily a super theory focused one, but I think it's really important. I think it's really important to talk about these kinds of things and approach these kinds of things from a gut, cerebral kind of, or from both a gut and a cerebral kind of perspective, and from every other perspective you possibly can. Just write your ass off, and don't get hung up on perfection, because it's not going to happen. Getting better at writing, getting faster at writing songs and recording songs isn't getting better at doing it more perfectly in less time. It's just getting more accepting of the little imperfections. That doesn't mean not trying to make it as good as you possibly can. It just means learning what not to tear your hair out over. Well, that should be some kind of mishmash of thoughts about writing and creativity in general and how to apply. I didn't really mention any specific or that much theoretical concepts, but the point is, find out. Put the work in yourself. I did, and a lot of people did. And there's still a lot more work for me to do. Put the work in yourself to find out the theory behind the stuff that you like. Because if you can attach a concrete musical device to something you're hearing, then you can utilize it as the tool that it is. So that should wrap it up. As always, hope you had fun, and thanks again.